Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My conversation this week is with Philip Taylor, a CPA, writer, podcaster, entrepreneur, and founder of FinCon. Philip also owns TravelCon and runs the Creator CPA, a CPA firm specializing in accounting services for content creators. Philip has been quoted and featured in multiple media outlets, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, Forbes, and Fox Business. Now, Philip and I connected after he heard my conversation with Robert Farrington last year, where I couldn't help but gush about my love for FinCon. As a longtime attendee and fan of the conference, I was pretty thrilled when Philip reached out and offered to come on the show himself. Though we did have to delay recording due to my maternity leave, the wait was absolutely worth it for this discussion with Philip about the evolution of financial content creation and marketing and everything that he has seen over the past 10 to 15 years. Now, in this conversation, Philip shares the origin story of FinCon and how it's grown from a simple blogger meetup to become the premier conference for financial content creators and professionals alike. We dive deep into how the landscape of financial content has shifted over the past decade, from the rise and fall of blogging to the emergence of video content and social media. We also explore the intersection of content creation and professional services, a trend that's reshaping how financial advisors and coaches market themselves today, and what financial content creators really need to be doing if they want to continue making money from their content. So I am particularly excited to share this episode because whether you're already creating content or just thinking about starting, Philip offers invaluable insights about where financial marketing is headed and how you can position yourself for success. So without further ado, let's dive in. Philip, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be on with you. I'm a fan of the show and what you're doing. So it's really cool to be chatting with you today, Hillary.
Well, I feel the same way. I'm a big fan of FinCon. I'm really excited to kind of dive into some of the nitty gritty with you. So can we just start with you telling us a little bit about who you are and way back when you first started FinCon, and just give us kind of your origin story?
Sure, absolutely. Like my father, I came up and followed in his footsteps as a CPA. So I went kind of the traditional accounting route initially. Discovered I didn't really care for public accounting that much. So I tucked away in some corporate finance jobs for a while until I discovered blogging and realizing that was something I enjoyed doing and could see myself turning into a business. I did it for a hobby on the side for a little while. And then 3 years into that project, I turned it into a full-time endeavor. So I learned how to quote unquote make money on the internet and do that. Went away from client work for several years there and just focused on running an internet business. The blog was focused on basic personal finance, helping people save money, get out of debt, start investing, those kinds of things. But I was pretty good at getting attention online. And if you were a blogger back in the day, most of us, it was pretty easy to do, right? There weren't that many out there. So enjoyed a kind of a little entrance into entrepreneurship through that blog. And then about a year and a half later, I started FinCon because I guess I missed being around people as much and wanted to, bring together the people in the industry that were doing the same thing that I was doing, which was, making content on the internet and sort of marketing around the financial topic. And so that was back in 2010, 2011. So what is that? Almost 15 years now. And for the most part, I've been running both those businesses since that time. I have 3 kids, lovely wife here in Texas. I've also added on a couple of other businesses recently. We acquired another an event called TravelCon. And then my father finally retired and I took over the family practice. And so I'm back in the CPA world serving clients, and I've integrated that business into my conferences as well. So That's kind of the overall picture. FinCon, as you mentioned, is probably the biggest piece of the pie there, and certainly, a big part of my life's work. Really, just was a community online that I found of people who were really passionate about a subject, and willing to talk about it,
Mhm.
and sort of entertaining the idea of making a business online. And so, coming together and invite them to a conference was just a natural reflex to the success and the positive things that community was bringing to my life. I didn't know anything about events, but I just loved those folks enough to know that I'd figure it out, and that's sort of how we treated FinCon in those early days of, let's just figure out how to get everyone together, so it's been a great journey. This will be our 15th one in 2025 here. And it's been really special to serve those folks.
Well, that's great. And there's actually so much that I want to unpack here, Philip. I'm also the daughter of a CPA, which is how I got
Oh,
interested in finance. So that's a really fun connection. CPAs are a really special group of people.
they are. They are.
And I actually want to ask you too, because so I've actually only been to two FinCons. My first was in 2021 in Austin, which was interesting because it was still kind of COVID pandemic
Hmm.
era. And then my second was in 2023 in New Orleans. Um, and I actually noticed a difference, and I'm wondering if this is why. I felt like at 2023, I was starting to see more CPAs and financial advisors at FinCon, both on the speaker side and also just those who were attending. And now I'm wondering, is that maybe because you took over the family business and got back into the CPA world?
That sort of preceded it a bit. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit more of a shift of some of the creators realized they needed to have a service to back up their content as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
for a while, you could sort of get attention on the internet and just make money on that purely like on ads or sponsorships, right? And so
Right.
you've seen a lot of creators shift toward wanting to have, some kind of service, whether it's bookkeeping or, uh, you know, uh, financial coaching or counseling, sort of moving toward the service business to couple with the attention they can get online. So
Right.
it's a good pairing. So that's one part. But also the other part is just as service providers, new ones come in, they're watching the TikToks, they're watching the YouTubers and reading the blogs. And so they are inspired by that. And it's like, oh, I know all this stuff too. I could just start marketing this way and sharing this stuff. So
Right.
I think it's just you're seeing more financial services people who are not afraid to use the platforms, and it's more natural for them to be out there and to be sharing more. And so, yeah, and in a lot of ways, especially in the CPA world, there's not really a good home for them. I
Mm-hmm.
think in financial advice world, um, meaning like planners and CFPs, those types, they sort of have some marketing conferences that go along with what they do, and they have special needs because of regulation around their work and their marketing. But for CPAs, for coaches, we found that they really don't have a home when it comes to like learning how to market, and a community of people that's really hyper interested in that piece of the business. And so
Right.
FinCon, I think by default, has kind of become a little bit of a home for those folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And I see just kind of an interesting marriage almost of marketing strategies and trends for today's financial services providers. I think back in the day, pre-internet, it was all about events and networking and things like that, right? And now so many advisors and financial coaches are able to serve clients nationwide virtually. And
Yeah.
so I think they've also a lot of advisors, especially the younger ones, have kind of lost that community and that networking aspect, but events kind of brings the two back together, right? And that's what I see FinCon doing. It's an event about online content creation, but it also provides that networking opportunity. So can you and I talk a little bit about just kind of the special place that events might have in somebody's marketing strategy as a whole?
Sure, absolutely. I think events are powerful. I mean, you sort of said it there, and especially in a world where it's so much more easy to market online, reach your customer digitally, and certainly there's less of a need to go to the networking functions down the street to interact with your local business peers because you're not necessarily limited geographically to just those folks. So, um, but yeah, events are great for that. There's something magic about getting together, especially around the finance topic, which I think is still taboo. To a
Mhm.
degree. There's only
Mhm.
there's certain people who are comfortable talking about it, and it's sort of impolite in a way in certain parts of society to kind of broach that subject. And so I think that's what's made FinCon great is that, these folks aren't afraid to have those discussions, and can kind of come together, and it's like you're no longer annoying your spouse, or your friend, your neighbor, is not looking at you weird for bringing the subject up. It's like these people are really excited to talk about these things, and also the business side. So I'm bullish on events. The thing is there's a lot of entrepreneurs bullish on events. And so post COVID, a lot of entrepreneurs jumped into the event scene thinking, okay, yeah, people do want to bounce back and come together. So I feel like the zone's a little flooded right now, to be honest with you. To me, there's almost too many options
Right.
for you to get together. And so it's sort of raised the stakes on events, and meaning people aren't just looking for the connection, but they're also sort of looking for like an experience as well.
Mm.
And so that's what we're seeing, is that folks kind of want, if they're going to leave the comforts of their home and their community and their in-person thing, then at home, then it needs to be kind of an experience and a great time in person. So, but yeah, happy to chat more about it.
Yeah, I would love to hear, and we can even go back to the beginning. I'd love to hear how you've seen FinCon evolve over the years, and related to what you were just talking about. How do you see FinCon kind of evolving to meet those desires or those needs?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, FinCon started mostly as a financial blogger conference, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what I was doing. That's the people I was sort of surrounding myself with. We were in online groups, and we had a specific business model, which was create content, get traffic from Google search, and then convert that into some type of user, whether they became a client, whether they became someone who you would hand over to an advertiser or connect to a product or service. Or have them join your email list and follow along for a course or something like that. So I was really hyper focused sort of on that scene. And when we had the first one, though, some podcasters showed up, some traditional media showed up, and maybe even one or two folks who were starting to dabble with YouTube and doing things on video. So I realized then that the thing was bigger than just financial blogging,
Mhm.
and so from the outset, I changed the name to just FinCon to attract and to make it more palatable for the entire financial content community to come together. And so, ever since that first one, I've sort of been fighting against the people think we're a blogging conference
Uh-huh.
mentality. And you came along in 2021, so maybe that had already passed since that point. But we have
Right.
still a lot of people who think of us as just a blogging conference. But I think we had one session on blogging last year, right?
Mhm.
So most of the sessions now have transferred over to, how to make how to get attention on social media, right? Because that's where. So as it transitioned, so initially blogs had it all, right? We had the content and we had the community as well. So that's where the conversation was going on. People were commenting on blogs, and there really wasn't another outlet out there for people to talk online. Then social media happened, and it's like, okay, we can actually talk here. It's actually much easier to talk here. So let's
Mhm.
create a Facebook group, or you can post your articles in Facebook, and then we can have a discussion there. It's so much easier to comment. So that's when sort of slowly the conversation started moving to social, but content was still, you know, blogging still had a kind of a stranglehold on it. And then podcasting sort of came along. And I think for the finance space, it holds a special place because people can consume that content when it's comfortable for them, like on their commute to work, or when they're folding clothes, or when there's sort of the privacy of whatever passive activity they're doing, walking around the neighborhood, and they sort of don't have to expose themselves to the fact that I am trying to fix my finances, or I'm trying to improve my financial life, and I don't have to do that necessarily in front of my colleagues or in front of my family. It's something I can just listen to, put the
Mhm.
earphones on and like get to know this topic. So I think podcasting had a big movement in the 2013s, 2014s, and it's grown ever since. And then, of course, video has come along and become the dominant platform.
Mhm.
Blogging has certainly fallen off because once corporations found out how easy it was to get attention online, they flooded the zone, right? And Google, to protect themselves, has moved a lot of their favoritism toward these corporations because, you know, they at least know Forbes is not going to completely, you know, harm uh, potentially harm the end user, or they can at least say, well, it's Forbes, you know, or
Right.
it's Fortune, or whatever. So a lot of the content now has moved toward these bigger outlets and bigger publications who've done the PR and hired the writers and have built their own brand. And so it's like, it's just hard as an independent publisher now to kind of exist. And
Right.
so YouTube, I think, is the last frontier for true, original, long form, like quality content. You just
Hmm.
have to be able to visually present it versus
Right.
type it out and convey it that way. So a lot of folks from my world have had struggled to make that transition, right? Video is a different beast, but it's still
Right.
the same. It's still the same type of business, right? It's a long form piece of content that's conveying a lot of information to a user, and then potentially they're taking action on that. And so some of the
Hmm.
actions that folks took on our websites, people can now take, you know, on the YouTube platform. The problem is it's sitting on Google's YouTube versus sitting on your own domain. So you're sort of
Right.
not building your own property, you're building the platform, but it's a good platform. And like I mentioned, we've seen a lot of service providers jump into the space now, and a lot of creators sort of see sponsorship dollars pull back a little bit post 2019,
Hmm.
and so you've seen kind of a more of a mix of service and professionalism amongst the pure creators, which I think is actually a healthy balance.
Hmm.
Um, and through the certainly through COVID, we had, you know, some of the issues with crypto and some of the negative financial things that happened to end users, and so there's some more regulation that has come in to sort of try to solve that. And I think those are, for the most part, pretty healthy things that I think have made our industry better. So I think it's moving in a positive direction. I think the conversation of money is still happening. It's mostly on YouTube. It's being passively consumed on TikTok and Instagram,
Hmm.
but those people can go deeper, you know, if they want to on YouTube or other platforms to kind of discover those things. So I'm excited. I'm excited about where things have moved. I feel like as a conference, we've tried to stay lockstep in that.
Yeah.
We got a lot more work to do, but it's an exciting time to be making financial content, I think.
Well, I think you have too. I mean, just in the space of the 2 years that I went, I saw a lot of new things in 2023, and of course, some of that might have had to do with, I know 2021 had to be smaller because of COVID, right? Um, but you brought up a really interesting point that I'd like to circle back to,
Yeah.
if you're okay with that. And I just think it's really poignant right now that a lot of this content creation is happening on platforms that aren't our own, right? And so it is really hard if you spent 10 years blogging and you had this great audience on your blog, right? But now Google is no longer showing your blog in search results.
Yeah.
And the same thing I think right now we can see happening on social media. People are building these great audiences on social media, but TikTok can disappear within the matter, within the space of 24 hours or so. And algorithms are always changing. So I'm wondering if you have any predictions, I suppose, about what's going to happen in the next few years with audience building and all
Yeah.
of that.
Well, uh, good point to good thing to point out for sure. I mean, obviously there's still email, right? And
Right.
so we can own email, and I think a lot of bloggers have actually made that transition fairly well, right? So there is email out there still, which you can own. I've never been naturally bent toward it, but because I don't like receiving email, but
Right. Right.
I mean, and to a certain degree, you know, email inboxes are being gated to a degree and flooded. But that's still a great tool for content creators to use. My predictions, I think, I think what's happening on YouTube, because it is so personality driven.
Hmm.
It's very hard for corporate to replicate it really well, right?
Hmm.
They could buy an influencer, bring them onto their platform, promote their thing, but they can't really do it themselves. You
Hmm.
know, they could do written content fairly well, but podcasting and video, it's just hard to not have a human who really cares about that subject, who's really passionate about it, who's
Right.
pushing that content forward and driving those conversations. It's really hard not to have like a real independent human involved in that process. And so
Right.
Some corporations are going to be able to, kind of dip into that further. So all that to say is, like, I think YouTube is sort of reliant on the independent creator to make their platform successful.
Yeah.
And they're less likely, I think, anytime soon to kind of pull that access away from those folks. And in fact, I think the trend even this year has been, give us less polished, give us less sort of manufactured content, and let's pull it back and let's just give us someone who knows what they're really talking about, whether they're old, young, black, white, whatever, and let's let their message get out there. And YouTube is like finding those gems and trying to promote those on the homepage,
Right.
which is refreshing to see. So to me, it just says that, YouTube's got a much longer runway before it gets gobbled up by those nasty corporate marketers. So
Right. No, that's a really great insight. I really appreciate you sharing that. So, segueing back into events and FinCon a little bit, what can we expect from FinCon in 2024? Am I right? Did I hear that it's being held in Oregon this year?
we'll be in Portland, Oregon in September. And it's going to be a fantastic time. We already have 1,000 folks signed up. They signed up at the pre-sale. We're going to open up tickets this April, I believe. And we're expecting a lot of folks to come out to the show and some great speakers to come, some great partners to be there. If partnership, sponsorship is something you want, we're always shooting to get the best banks, brokers, cards there to interact with for the creators. Creator services tools will be there. Email marketing companies, hosting companies, folks that kind of help you get your work done will be there. It'll be great conversations. And also, like you said, it'll be in Portland. So it'll be a good palette to kind of experience the event there. We'll get out, check out some of the cool restaurants, be outside where it's ideally going to be pretty nice in September.
Yeah.
And just have a great 3 days where we really sort of celebrate this idea of reaching people with like a positive money message.
Yeah.
That's the heart of what the creators that come to the show are doing. And so in a lot of ways, our events kind of become that. So we're trying to make it as accessible as possible to as many folks, and just have a great time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, I am too. I'm happy this year that as much as I love the East Coast, being in Colorado, I'm really excited. It's going to be a little bit closer for me this year over on the West Coast. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah. No layover, probably.
No layover. It's great. I might even bring the family.
Please do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share with us, Philip, about either FinCon or TravelCon or just anything else that we can look for?
No, I that's it. I mean, you can find me usually in LinkedIn or Twitter is kind of my two platforms I like socially. I still blog occasionally and talking a little bit about my integration of my CPA firm with what I'm doing with FinCon. And if you come to FinCon, you'll see a booth for the Creator CPA, which is my new brand underneath the CPA firm, which I'm marketing, bookkeeping and tax services to content creators. And so I'm trying to integrate, all the businesses. So a lot of my content and social these days is sort of letting folks know where I am on that journey, right?
Okay.
And trying to bring people along with me. So
awesome. Well, I will link to all of that in the show notes. This has been a really great conversation, Philip. Thank you so much for sharing everything you did.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.